Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we got a doozy for you. We're going to dive deep into the question, are you healthy? And this is probably not going to look like you think it might. The conversation is going to take a little bit of a different course, meaning that we're not just going to look at labs and test those different things. We're going to dive deep into what it actually means for us to be healthy. And I'll tell you this, every one of us needs to hear this conversation. I need to hear it every day. When I'm on stage, I talk about this all the time, and it can be very, very confusing to just try to ask and answer that question, are you healthy? Because for the most part, there's no defining sentence. There's no definition of what healthy is until today. So buckle down. This is going to be a good one. And I intend to challenge you mentally, but also inspire you. So, and again, thank you for all of you that are participating in sharing this out. Thank you. We're continuing to get great feedback. I love the fact that many of you are doing, you're giving us 5-star reviews. So keep doing that wherever platform you use, whether it's Spotify or Apple, whatever it may be, wherever it is. If you can go there and give us a review, leave a comment, ask questions, whatever it may be. All of that helps us literally just reach more people. And this whole concept and idea of what kind of created or bred this podcast of Health Made Simple show. Health is simple. We're gonna dive into that today. Like, are you healthy? We don't need elaborate tests to find this out. And if we can be doing some of the things we talk about today, what does it really mean to us? We can live a little bit more peace. We don't have to be always wondering and wondering if there's a big surprise around the next corner. All right, with that being said, welcome aboard, everyone. Welcome to another episode, and let's dive right in. So often if I ask people the question, are you healthy? That's where right away it gets a little bit confusing. So and the reason being is for everybody that has a different meaning, a different value. I might ask one person, saying, are you healthy? This often happens when I'm publicly speaking to groups, and I might point someone out in the audience and I'll ask them, are they healthy? And they might say, well, I feel good. I don't get sick often, therefore I must be healthy. Next person, I ask them and they say, well, I get up every morning at 5 o'clock. I go for a 3-mile run. I come home, I make a green smoothie, and therefore I must be healthy. And there's a little different definitions. And then yet another person might say, I don't think I'm that healthy. I'm getting run down a lot. And lately I just feel like crap. I'm out of energy. And therefore they say they're not healthy. So what is health? What does it really mean? So as you can see, all of those, a little bit different meaning, a little different values. I don't know that any one of them is wrong, yet let's get clear on it so you can ask the question, any given day, are you healthy? Whether you're going to a doctor's office and you run labs, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. Are labs helpful? Absolutely. I love labs. They give us direction. They literally are us looking at our profit and loss statement of the human body. And if there are some losses, let's correct them and make them into wins. Yet we don't necessarily need them to answer the fundamental question, are you healthy? Because it's going to be more about how and what actions we are taking in our lives. So let's redefine it from this point forward. So for you, me, everyone listening to this podcast today, the next time you think about the question or someone says, are you healthy? This is how we define it. And the definition goes like this. Now we switch it to, are you optimizing how you move, how you eat, and how you think? So, and we'll dive deeper into this in just a moment. That's all I want you to think. Are you optimizing? Are you improving? That's a key word there. Are you improving the current status of how well you move, how well you eat, and how well you think? That surrenders the constant conversation or the most common conversation or answer I get when it comes to, hey, how's your diet? How's your nutrition? It's all pretty good. That doesn't mean anything. So now if I ask you, how's your diet? You'd be thinking to yourself, am I optimizing this? Am I moving in a direction of improving my diet daily? And if the answer is yes, then good. And we'll dive deep into what that really looks like. So it's not this arbitrary, well, I think I'm doing a little better. I didn't order fries last week with my burger. So we'll dive into that in just a moment. And same thing with moving and how you think. So let's dive into these. And then we'll talk about the nuances that are really at the root of whether or not we're going to be healthy from today moving forward. The conversation, the second half of this podcast today, when we dive into really, are we healthy? Are we taking healthy actions? The realities of what it takes to be healthy, those are the ones that I want you to make sure you stick around for, because they're not easy one to swallow, yet they are absolutely real. They are true. And when we accept them as truths, then we get to start to move forward and be the best version of ourselves. So let's first break this down a little bit, and let's talk about how you move, how you eat, and how you think. So as you listen to this today and you move forward, even later this afternoon, you can think, well, am I actually a healthy person? Am I optimizing how I move, eat, and think? So let's get real specific about it. I'm going to start off with the thinking part. This literally could be an entire podcast by itself, the mindset. I'm going to simplify this. And all the work that you can do in your mind, 100%, I encourage you to do so. Yeah, I'm going to simplify it and just say this. If you wake up in the morning and you can say, the future looks bright, and you get up, your eyes open up, you get a little bit of smile on your face because you got another day, and you can say to yourself, the future looks bright, then you are thinking well. Then you are a healthy thinker. You are optimizing how you think. There's a reason for that. You can't fake that. And the only way that the future looks bright, it will not have anything to do with the economy, the weather, any of that stuff that we often politics. That have nothing to do with it. The only way that our futures look bright on an individual basis is when we are taking action toward us as human beings, about our health, our wealth, and our relationships. So if you are taking action, and remember, action is always the greatest form of medicine. If you're in a rut right now, go do something. Take a positive action. That requires two things. One, you kind of have a plan of where you want to go, even if it's not completely defined. There's some version, and when you start to break that down, so what do I want to do with my body? What do I want to do with my mind? What do I want to do with how my nutrition is? If you just look at those, your health, your wealth, relationships, and then you just think about what one thing can I do right here, right now, moving in that direction, then listen, the future starts looking bright the moment you start taking those actions. So from this point forward, as we kind of, bounce back and forth, excuse me, between how you move, how you eat, and how you think, if you're optimizing those, when it comes to the thinking part, if you believe when you wake up in the morning that the future looks bright, it means that you are taking action towards something that is beneficial in your life. So that's going to be the simple one of these three things. So now let's talk about moving for just a moment. We're going to be very specific. Are you optimizing how you move? In just getting away with what you've done in the past is not optimizing. If I ask you, how do you feel? How's your physical body? Go, well, pretty good. I can still blank. If you're doing what you did last year, you're not optimizing. That's our reality. If you have the same program you've had for 10 years, it might be good, and you're going to need to add to that. So when it comes to movement, very specifically, if you're wanting to know if you're optimizing, it comes down to three things. And it's kind of fun to look at. One, you look at, are you optimizing your strength? Literally, how strong are you today versus a year ago versus 10 years ago? How many push-ups can you do today versus last year? How about 5 years ago, 10 years ago? How many pull-ups? What can you do with your strength? Not just, well, I'm kind of strong, or I'm what I used to be. Are you doing something to optimize it? And that means, are you weight training? Are you doing some resistance training? Are you doing things that are pushing your body a bit? The second part of moving is this. Is your range of motion getting better or worse? I know the answer to this for the most people. I know the answer to all these because I've been doing this for a long time. And especially when I get in these group audience, I just had the opportunity about a week ago to go up to Nashville, over 1,000 people in the audience. And I had them do range of motion tests, and I had them do some push-ups and stuff. We have a lot of fun with it because it's funny, and it's such an eye-opener that the average guy can't do 20 push-ups. And I'm not knocking anyone here, but the average guy a healthy guy should be able to do about 40 push-ups in a row. That's a healthy guy. How many guys can do 40? About 5% or less. It's a bummer. Women should be able to do 20 push-ups. How many women can do 20 push-ups consecutively? I don't know, but I'm going to guess less than 5%. Those would be our benchmarks. So, and you don't have to be there. You need to be moving in that direction. In the idea of optimizing our health is that we are taking actions to optimize our health. So that's where this really boils down to. So now that you're sitting there listening to this, or you're driving, or maybe you're on a run right now, you're thinking, am I optimizing my health? Am I optimizing my strength? Am I optimizing my range of motion? What do I mean by that? Maybe you have to get into a yoga class. When's the last time you just see how well you can touch your toes, bend over and see how flexible you are, reaching your hands behind your back, having some measurable ways And that's one of the fun things we do with the big audiences. And you can look around, see how people are doing. I never want people to judge, but it sure is funny when we look at other people. We have fun with that for just a moment, then bring it back home, saying, listen, if you're losing range of motion, it is one of the fastest ways to age the human body, because you become limited in what you can do in this world that we live in. So strength, range of motion, and endurance. And endurance can be checked in a couple different ways. Can you go out and take a 5 or 6 mile walk? Every one of us should be able to do that easy breezy. Not everyone can, or the recovery would be really difficult. Can you hang out and plank for 2 minutes? That should be our benchmark. Is that difficult? It absolutely is. It would take some doing to get there. So we're checking on our range of motion, our strength, and our endurance. So that would be the first way. If you're trying to say, am I healthy when it comes to how I move my body? You get to look at all three of those things: how your strength is, your range of motion, and your endurance. And if they're not so great, beautiful. Now you know, and this is when you get to start to take an opportunity tomorrow, today. Get on the floor, do some push-ups, do some plank, etc. All right, now let's move into the eating part. Most common response I get when it comes, how's your diet, is pretty good, best I can. Those two are the most common. 9 out of 10 people will always respond to me by saying, best I can, and I'm doing pretty good. Both of those, to me, quite frankly, and don't get mad at me if I see you in person at some point, both of those to me are borderline a cop-out. Those are an accepted behavior, canned response that a lot of people just say along the way. So, hey, how you doing with your nutrition? Oh, I'm doing pretty good, best I can. And what does that really mean? The most acceptable, easy path is usually what you're going to take. It doesn't mean that you're taking a difficult path, doesn't mean that you're hunkering down. It means that what you're doing right now doesn't create any imminent danger or pressing health conditions. So you're going to keep doing what you're doing because it isn't creating enough of discomfort in your life on other levels. So you're going to keep doing what you're doing. And quite frankly, it's very convenient for us to eat and drink the way the rest of our culture does. So with that being said, here's what I want you to think of. When it comes to nutrition, here's our reality, whether people want to argue with this or not. We should put only organic food in our body. So when the argument would be, well, it's price and all that stuff, but here's just the realities. We shouldn't put food in our bodies that have chemicals. I think that's fair. I think everyone could agree there. And all those foods should come from what we call God's garden. And I love this one because it's just really so simple. If it comes from a root plant tree, walks in the garden, swims in the sea, we eat it. But Doc, wait a minute. How about red meat? Well, Doc, how about vegetarian? Don't some vegetables have lectins and all these chemicals? And aren't some of these bad and some of these good? The answer is a little bit of everything. But here's the deal. As humans, we do have the capacity when we're healthy to eat anything from God's garden. So maybe you figure out that a carnivore diet works really good for you. Maybe a vegetarian diet works really good for you. Maybe it's a blend. Maybe it's weaving back and forth. But the commonality is this, that they're real foods, that they all come from a root plant tree. They walk in the garden. They swim in the sea. They are real food from God's garden without chemicals in them. That is our benchmark. So if someone asks you, are you healthy? In your brain, you got to go through this list and go, all right, when it comes to my nutrition, how I eat, am I optimizing how I eat? Or am I doing pretty good, the best that I can, or is under the circumstances? All of those are canned kind of common answers, but they don't hold a lot of accountability. And today, and because we love accountability, we love to help level ourselves up, we're going to talk about optimizing human health, which means how we move, how we eat. And we just covered how we think. Remember, when it comes to thinking, if you wake up in the morning and you believe the future is bright, I know you know that you have a plan and you're taking action. Because if you don't have a plan and you have no action, the outside world is going to overrun your predominant thought. And I tell you, it's not pretty. If you listen to social media, if you're watching the news, you're listening to gossip, you got friends, family, you name it, whatever it may be, that are leading in this negative direction. And each one of us is vulnerable for it unless we have a plan and we are taking action to unfold that plan. Now let's talk about, here's the second part, folks. Here's when the rubber hits the road, and a conversation that after all these years of working in healthcare, this has become more clear to me in these last couple of years than it ever has in my career. That in order to be healthy, we have to surrender to a couple of things. One, that being healthy is super inconvenient, especially in our culture. And I mean that. It is super inconvenient. We are not designed, well, I take that back. The way the culture is kind of designed, it's not convenient to cook. Typically, it is not convenient to set time aside to exercise. It is not convenient to make sure you get enough sleep every night. It's not convenient to make sure you go out for a long walk. It's not convenient to put your phone aside. So there's a lot of inconvenience that's going to go along with being healthy. There's three things, and listen closely on these, because this is where you can find out if you're optimizing and have a good plan. In order to be healthy, three things are going to have to happen repetitively, almost on a daily basis. You're going to have to be inconvenienced. You're going to have to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. And you're most likely going to have to tap into things that are unfamiliar. Unfamiliar. What does this really mean to us? Inconvenience. Yes, it takes a little more time to cook. No doubt about it. If you want to be healthy, that's going to happen. For a moment, I want you to imagine the one, two, or three people that you know in your life that is they are the healthiest people you know. They always seem to have energy. They look good. Their bodies are healthy. They seem to be really comfortable with their body. They move good, think good, all of these different things. Think about that individual for a moment. Then I want you to think about their habits. There's a good chance that you think that that individual is extreme. You think that their diet is crazy because they're so disciplined. You think that they do a crazy workout. You think that they have a crazy mindset and they listen to too many motivational tapes and books and whatnot. My point being here is this, is that that is a lot of that individual's habits. They're inconvenient. They are uncomfortable. They're doing things that the average person is too uncomfortable to do. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to get up early to do these things. And this is where I'm going to encourage every one of us. I get the opportunity every single day to work with people and do my best to help them move into a place, in a space, and shift gears with their health so they can enjoy this thing that we call life. Because without your health, without tapping into the natural, innate abilities that we have, the expression of life is diminished. And I get to see this. It becomes clearer and clearer every day, every month, every year that I practice, that the substitutes we bring in to substitute what our bodies naturally have, like energy, I don't know, whether it be food and alcohol and stimulation drinks or outside sources to fill up our space, whether it be our phones or binge watching TV or whatever it may be. All of those things are distractors of getting away from what we have naturally within our body, which is a perfect ability to experience life in an awesome way. Yet it's going to be inconvenient, uncomfortable, and most likely unfamiliar. Now, with that being said, what does that mean to you and I? It means this, that as we go with our health, what we did last year will not be enough for this year. What we're doing this year will not be enough for next year. This is a tough message. If you have a health coach in your life, if you have a doctor, if you have concierge doctor, functional medicine doctor, this conversation has to happen, because it is very common that we're thinking, but doc, I do everything. The moment those words come out of your mouth, maybe you're fighting something, maybe you're trying to lose weight, maybe you're just trying to fight off an autoimmune condition, maybe you're just trying to change the level of your health. And doc, I've done everything. That is the part of what I say in unfamiliar is. There's always something you haven't done. Otherwise, we wouldn't be considered unfamiliar. There's always a bridge that we have to cross. And this is my analogy for all of your health goals. We have to cross bridges. And on the other side of the bridge, it's going to be inconvenient to cross the bridge. I definitely be uncomfortable because we don't know what's on the other side. But the best version of you, the best version of me, is on the other side of the bridge. Here's what I do know. After this many years, almost 30 years, hundreds of thousands of patients and interactions and communications and heartfelt moments, I know this, that very few people have ever tapped into the full capacity. I don't know anybody fully tapped into the capacity that our creators gave us, which means that we have to continue to allow ourselves to be inconvenienced, uncomfortable, and do unfamiliar things to find the best version of ourselves. And if we happen to surrender, that we're no longer willing to be uncomfortable for the best version of ourselves, that's when it gets a little challenging. That's when we start to cut corners. That's when we start to look for the easy way out. And I don't know that that is the best expression of life. I don't know that our creators had that intention for us to do, to kind of settle in. What does uncomfortable look like? It might mean getting up earlier every day for 15 minutes and having a gratitude, like meditating. Maybe you have a gratitude meditation for 5 minutes. Maybe it means getting up earlier every day and start exercising. Yeah, it's inconvenient. You're tired, all of the above. Maybe it's just a walk in the morning. Maybe it's you go for a light jog. Maybe it's a swim. Maybe you start to do some yoga in the morning. Maybe to cross the bridge to get to the other side, you have to make a very difficult and very inconvenient change with your diet. Maybe it looks like on the other side that you give up. Maybe you only eat from God's garden for 30 days, a whole food diet for 30 days, and do not break it. And if you do break it, instead of just giving your excuse, well, it was Johnny's birthday and blah, 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 maybe you own it and you look at the behavior and the belief system that you had that allowed you to deviate from moving into the best direction of yourself. And we know the answer is going to be this. Oh, it was difficult. It was uncomfortable. It was unfamiliar. I didn't know what to do next. It was inconvenient. I had to buy my own food and cook it. And I'm not a really good cook yet. So all of those things are going to show up on our journey of this thing called health. And if we're going to call ourselves healthy, we're ultimately going to have to be able to answer the question, are you optimizing how you move, how you eat, and how you think? The other side of that bridge, if you're still drinking alcohol and you haven't gone 30, 60, 90 days without it in your life, here's what I know. I've never had a client ever tell me, Doc, man, I shouldn't have quit alcohol. I shouldn't have given it up for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. No one's ever come back and said to me, I was just so much better when I was drinking. Not some, not a couple, all of them. When we get poisons out of our body and out of our minds, and we start to reflect on why we're letting them in there, you always have an aha moment. There's always, now listen, I'll tell you firsthand, a lot of the times you're going to cross the bridge, have an experience, you're going to recognize the benefit for it to be in your life, and then you go back to the other side. Why? Because it's convenient on the other side. But the beauty is if you go to the other side of the bridge, and it will be unfamiliar and it will definitely be uncomfortable. When you go to the other side and you have that moment, now you have a moment of truth. And once we have that, that doesn't go away. That's the beauty of that. That's to me one of the most sacred moments when we experience something and now we have truth deep within the soul. And now when we cross back to the bridge to the other side and the alcohol comes back, the crappy food comes back, the sleeping in late, the staying up late, all these habits that don't serve you to be the best version of yourself, deep down, knocking at the door is that truth saying, hey, we were on the other side of the bridge. We saw what it could be like. We felt better. We moved better. We thought better. We were taking actions. We were getting back in love with ourselves. We were waking up thinking that the future was bright. So to sum all of this up, do we need a new definition of health? Absolutely. And I really pray that somehow this sinks in there a little bit. And I would love to hear your comments on it. And I would love to hear reviews on this. Even if you hate every word that I say this afternoon or whenever you listen to this, recognize it. It's probably, if it's really touching some points, it's probably hitting you exactly where you needed to hit it. And I promise you that this comes from a place in my heart that as I work with more and more people and I see things so dynamic and there's so many distractions of trying to do things from the outside. Do I think labs are important? I absolutely do. But even those, they get confusing at times. We often think, well, maybe I'll check my labs to determine if I'm healthy. No, the labs give us opportunity to look for areas to improve. For example, our labs right now is kind of confusing right now, where we always thought that cholesterol high was bad. Well, now we're going, wait a minute, it's not. And then all that confusion happens, and confusion and uncertainty usually causes inactivity. So it's not necessarily labs. Yes, I still take a lot of labs. I encourage you to take labs. You can call us anytime. We will get you all the labs that you need. And with that being said, there are opportunities. We don't look for dis-ease and disharmony in the lab. We look for opportunities to take more action. We look for opportunity with labs to figure out how to optimize. That is the purpose of collecting data. So as we move forward here today, keep this in the back of your mind. When you think about your health, are you optimizing how you move, how you eat, and how you think? And real easy with the movement. Are you getting stronger, increasing range of motion? Is your endurance getting a little bit better? When it comes to eating, are you eating from God's garden? Is it organic? Every single day, tuning that in, getting better and better. And then you might find a particular style works good for you. Paleo, keto, carnivore, vegetarian, vegan, whatever it may be. You may find that style works wonderful for you. And when it comes to thinking, if you're waking up, and in your mind, the future looks bright and you're looking forward to enjoying this day, most likely it is because you are already taking action on how you move, how you eat, or how you think, or even your health, your wealth, your relationships. All right. Thank you once again for joining us on the Health Made Simple podcast. Keep doing your thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love, and I will see you in the next podcast.